I am not glazing my own self when I say this. I think I am a more popular figure in New York City than Andrew Cuomo. This is not to say that I am more known than Andrew Cuomo. Of course, Andrew Cuomo is a much more visible, much more known person, but he's also a hated person in New York City. I am not. Do I have my share of haters in New York City? Certainly. But the number of people who like me is far larger than the number of people who hate me in New York City specifically. And I would say that it is a reversal for Andrew Cuomo. A lot more people know who he is, and a lot more people don't like him than do like him. And I would go so far as to say that if we went band for band in terms of how many people would be willing to go out to a rally or a meetup that I set up, me versus Andrew Cuomo, there would be more people showing up to mine than his. Do you see what I mean? Does Zoran know about you and what Cuomo is mentioning? What do you mean? You versus Cuomo money spread? Hassan self-glazing, but I like it. How is it in LA compared to New York City? I love New York City. He was endorsed by Wendy Turigi, who became an AMT after the attack. She added his opponent Zoran Mamdani, proudly associated with Hassan Piker, man who said America deserved 9/11. To families like mine, that's not politics, that's life and death. His association with Hassan Piker qualifies him to serve at any role for New York City, let alone as important as mayor. I'm calling on Zoran Mamdani to disavow Hassan Piker and his hateful words. Like the whole like he needs to disavow Hassan Piker. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? This is yet again another instance where saying Mamdani's inexperience is dangerous in the case of terrorist attacks. Families are still living with the pain, and families will still endure the loss from 9/11. Should Zoran respond? And if so, how do you think? Look, I have no, I have no way of figuring out exactly how he's going to communicate through this. But the best possible thing would be to just never even respond to this at all. And if you ever were forced to respond to this in like a moment where someone, they sent like a provocateur or something, then they caught you when you were doing like a presser or some shit, the best possible response would be like, what are you talking about? Like, this is a popular media figure. He's a leftist. Of course I'm going to go on a stream. And of course, instead of like, if we're going to talk about the association game, Andrew Cuomo is associated with Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump. So he's both bad on domestic affairs and bad on foreign policy as well. My association with a progressive Twitch streamer using Fox News lines of attack is so insane. But yet another clear-cut example that Andrew Cuomo is a right-winger and running to spoil this race. That's it. I want to improve people's lives in New York. This kind of silly back and forth is a simple distraction for a campaign that is failing, for a campaign that is failing for good reason, because they do not care about New Yorkers, and New Yorkers have already responded by voting for me, Zohran Kwame Mamdani, over Andrew Cuomo. That's it. Excited to see all the worst humans online start backing Andrew Cuomo because of this. Yeah, it's a unique moment. Like I said, at worst, this would turn into like Hassan's association with politicians is bad when it's not. But they will try online in the little world that we live in, where no normie actually broaches that side of the internet. It'll make it seem as though my association with Zohran Mamdani was a boon. Was a burden, was a negative and not like a positive one, and that's it. And they'll just recirculate that bullshit back and forth over and over again with the hopes that Zoran will disavow or condemn or something. And I don't, not Boone, sorry, Bane. I don't think it's necessarily, like I said, even if Zoran were to come out and be like, yeah, I don't know this guy, fuck him. I disavow Hassan Piker. That, it doesn't bother me beyond the fact that I think it's bad instincts. That's it. It's not dissimilar to me being critical of him backing away from like the globalize the intifada message. It's showing me that it's very like he's more susceptible to the squishy liberal optics, maybe a little too much, and in a way that actually doesn't translate to strength and leadership. It's just not a good. We don't live in that era. We don't live in that age. We don't live in that era. So you're literally walking around New York like a month ago and everyone was so excited to see you. No, exactly. So that's it. Like, come on, dude. It's in the same line of attack. I met and hired a Gen Z line cook who's one of my sous chefs now. And when we met, I tried to tell him I watch you. And he goes, you want me to watch Hassan Piker? 3 years later, I mentioned him again. I get my news now. He says, oh, well, that's for the best. If you want to know what's actually going on. Oh, how the turns have tabled. Mohammed El Kurd had a good post on this. Yeah, I saw. Hold on. It's here somewhere. Where was it? Do you guys understand what I mean, by the way? Because it's like, it doesn't, association with someone like myself, a fucking niche online left figure, is either seen as like a major positive for those in the know. Like, a lot more people have a positive association with that than a negative one. Or they just like are completely oblivious and think like, why the fuck is this a big deal? Like, what are you talking about? Like, they're trying to make this a big deal. But the problem is, you must be extremely online to think that this would be a big deal association. Do you see what I mean? I don't have enough motion and broad mainstream disapproval for this to actually stick. And for the most part, my mainstream appeal is positive. Regardless of how much the ADL comes after me and attacks me with regular frequency. So yeah, we're going to look at Zoran's numbers in a second. But have we blasted off already? Yes, I did. Where was it? There was a Mohammed El Kurd post that I was going to cover as well. Hold on. Yeah, Dave Weigel joke says, tough on Hassan the Hun, tough on the causes of Hassan the Hun. But yeah. Mohammed El Kurd said, I've told you this on the phone, in person, and I will reiterate it publicly. What you think of the phrase globalize the intifada, our beautiful uprising against occupation, is irrelevant. What matters is that it's a slogan adopted by a movement that is partly responsible for your success, and you mustn't throw them under the bus. We are facing unprecedented levels of state repression and institutional censorship. Both our political organizing and speech are criminalized, and we are confronting genocide for God's sake. That you choose to continue elevating Jewish feelings over the lives of Palestinians over the fact of genocide is nothing more than punching down on those who have helped elevate you. And not to mention, it is bad electoral strategy considering you are quite literally winning and need not to bow down to Zionist pressure 100%. Like I'm endorsing Mohammed's take here 100%. He's right. The tens of thousands of volunteers who have canvassed for you in the scorching hot sun, they are not to be taken for granted. Their support isn't unconditional. Remember that. If I could vote, I would vote for Mamdani solely because of his economic agenda, as I care about the poor and working class New Yorkers. No other reason. I have no doubt that those anti-Palestinian dog whistles will only grow louder if not challenged. I sincerely hope I am wrong. I said this already. I don't think this is a betrayal. I see this as I don't see this as like a major betrayal to the Palestinian cause or anything like that. I don't think he's like backing away, especially because he has spent so many years so visibly doing activism for Palestinians and for Palestine. And when you do that, especially at a time when there were far more severe consequences for it, like being pro-Palestine wasn't like a popular position until recently even though it was always the correct position, it was an unimaginably unpopular position. Okay. There's an entire wing of progressives in this country that are progressive except for Palestine, and not even in just in this country, but in general in the Western world. There are people who have been incredibly progressive overall, with the exception of Israel. This is something that I know from all of my years of advocacy, and this is something that Zohran Mamdani knows as well. So, especially when he's winning on this issue, the fact that he would like ever back away from that and give any inch because he personally thinks this is going to improve his broad appeal is just wrong. And the instincts that he had of unconditionally supporting Palestinian emancipation was right. It showed earnesty. So this looks like kind of fake. I'll still support him regardless, and I'll still tell my audience to go and vote for him regardless, even if he were to say like, oh, fuck Hassan, I don't know him, I disavow him. And I'm sure he knows that already. But the thing that I worry about is that it shows me that it's like a bad instinct in general. It's like not it isn't, I know it's like sounds, obviously it looks personal because I'm now in the crosshairs of Andrew Cuomo, but I said this yesterday as well before this thing happened. And my assessment is still the same, which is I don't think he's like betraying what he believes, right? I don't think he's betraying what he believes at all. But it does feel as though he is miscalculating if he thinks that this kind of line of attack is actually a successful one that actually tarnishes his broad appeal. Okay? Also, Bernie AOC influence is stupid because Bernie's own team reached out when Bernie and Zohran were doing the Brooklyn thing, and they wanted me to come out. So the notion that like, this is the Bernie AOC wing of the party, they still associate with me publicly. What the fuck are we talking about? Calm down. They understand that I seemingly have some kind of appeal in the left flank of the party that they also think is important enough to talk to. Anyway, Zana says, if you're wondering why they're still asking him about this months later, it's in part because every time he's asked this, his position becomes more palatable for the Democratic Party leadership and donors. They will continue asking this question until he's completely acquiesced into a boilerplate progressive Dem a la AOC. I don't think it's going to happen. And I think it's actually more nefarious than that. I think the reason why they're asking them this question is so that they can actually cook him and make him look inconsistent and hit him harder. Because the moment that you actually acquiesce, the moment that you actually concede on this ridiculous notion, this notion that is not truthful at all, because his original statement was like, it's an Arabic word. It's one that literally the Holocaust Memorial Foundation like uses when talking about the Warsaw Ghetto uprising. It's just the Arabic word for uprising. That was correct. That was the correct statement initially. And he has backed away from that, saying like, oh man, I don't know. I just don't know. It's very hurtful. It reminds people of bus bombings, like as though saying globalized intifada means like you're going to do, Muslims are going to do bus bombings in New York City. Like that's fucking bullshit. That is a racist fantasy. And you do not have to concede on that at all. Okay, you do not have to concede on that at all. And why must you not concede on that? Not because you want to be like a moral beacon. Okay, that's not even what I'm saying. The cynical, calculated assessment here. Okay, the cynical, calculated assessment here is that once you concede on that, they're just going to ask. They're going to use that as an opportunity to legitimize their line of attack. See, he recognizes it too. So we weren't wrong. We were right. That intifada is a violent language. And at a time when there's unprecedented amounts of attack on free speech, specifically from the perspective of being anti-Israel, anti-genocide, anti-Zionist, conceding on this after your lack of concessions on this issue allowed you to win this incredibly crowded primary against a dynastic figure like Andrew Cuomo and many other even progressive figures that were fighting alongside you to win the Democratic Party's primary is bad. It's never going to stop at this. Once you give a fucking inch, they're going to take a mile. Okay? That's it. Chatters want drama between you and people you have professional relationship and have professional disagreements with. Insane levels of parasocial from chatters. Yeah, this is not the first time he has said this thing. I know he had basically unveiled that this was going to be his like soft concession to this standard, and I don't think it works. I don't think this is that big of a problem either way. It only becomes a big problem if this is all he is constantly seeking to address. Okay, any moment that you find yourself offering legitimacy to this angle of attack is a moment that you're failing, because it's a moment that you're not talking about your policies. It's not a moment where you're talking about, it's a moment where you're not talking about like why people trust you, why people find you to be earnest. Okay? That's it. Didn't you address and predict this in your interview with him? I mean, I might have brought this up at some point, but I don't remember. I don't recall. Maybe. Yeah, Zoran, who says he'll arrest Netanyahu, is 3 times more trusted by New Yorkers on Israel Palestine than Cuomo, who has volunteered to defend Netanyahu. New York City's message to Israel lobby is loud and clear. We are not stupid, and you have no more influence here. Exactly. So it's just a weakness. And you can never show weakness, especially when you're winning. It just makes no sense. I think it would be more damaging for him to concede on, do you disavow Hassan Piker? Do you disavow, globalize the intifada? All this shit. That shows more weakness and becomes a point of contention for him than not addressing it at all and just moving on and being like, these are silly distractions. Let's talk about the issues that really matter. Okay? Do you see? Do you understand what I'm saying here? Like, these motherfuckers are making it seem like I did 9/11. It is a horrifyingly racist statement on its face. It's an insanely Islamophobic shit. It's an insanely Islamophobic thing to do. I'm Muslim. He's Muslim. They're saying 9/11. Remember 9/11? Remember 9/11? It's basically what Charlie Kirk was doing, but a little bit different, like a little bit more palatable, right? What is this? Holy, just watch the context related to that quote is way worse. What do you mean? I think people need to cut him some slack because this guy's running for mayor, not president or governor. No, I'm cutting him all the slack in the world. I don't think you guys understand. Like, this doesn't change my my opinion, but the only thing that I'm worried about, and this is far before the Andrew Cuomo stuff too, the only thing that I'm worried about is like, it just shows bad instinct if you concede on stuff like this. Okay? I don't think he's like betraying the Palestinian cause or anything, or like used it as a way to farm clout or anything like that. You know? In some respects, this in and of itself is no different than if he had conceded on the Israel question. Would you travel to Israel? Why won't you travel to Israel? Do you believe that Israel has a right to exist? Over and over again. What did he do in that situation? He said Israel has a right to exist as a democratic state that has equal rights and equal representation for all, which is not what Israel is. Okay? He perfectly took a framework that is so acceptable for liberals and recalculated and answered it in that way. But that, instead of conceding and instead of like owning and legitimizing this like cynical line of attack, he just said, fuck no. You know, he stood proudly on this issue. So anyway, but it is obviously like a coordinated campaign. Maybe Fox News will get in on it too a little bit, but like, it's gross. It's gross the way that like Andrew Cuomo is just like farming 9/11 to be like, see, this guy may or may not have done 9/11. Andrew Cuomo standing next to a sign that says in big letters, America deserved 9/11 with no additional context other than the photo of a Twitch streamer that most regular New Yorkers have never heard of. What a fantastically run campaign. Exactly. It's so stupid. Like, you do this only if you like want to attack me, not even Zoran. Because the counter here is so easy for Zoran to just be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, at most. Do you see what I mean? This feels like an idea that his Groyper social media manager came up with. Yeah. It's an act of desperation. 99% of retweets have just been laughing at this. I know, but that doesn't matter because Zoran's assessment might be a little bit different. What is this? Why is Hassan making this a big deal? It's a nothing burger. It's only a big deal if you make it a deal, Hassan. Then he tries to make it a big deal. I'm just explaining something that I have been personally brought up in. I think it's valid. No? You don't think so? Am I being crazy? And I'm, as always, not just talking about myself in this process, but also drawing on a broader point. The broader point being that, one, I'm utterly irrelevant in the grand scheme of things, and two, if he were to lean into this line of attack, it just once again shows bad instincts, and it could become a problem for him in this race. Because he's gonna keep getting gummed up in the works. They're just gonna keep hitting him over and over again. This is what originally this is what was brought up in the mayoral town hall from a Zionist group that asked him about this already, because this is like something that the ADL has been trying to fucking farm off of Zoran over and over again.
In the last 24 hours, that social media comments, activist slogans actually can lead to what happened last night in Washington, D.C. We've reported at Jewish Insider that you've gone on the show of a podcaster, a popular podcaster on the left named Hassan Piker, who has justified Hamas's October 7th, 2023 terror attacks. Said it didn't matter if rapes occurred on October 7th on his show on a number of occasions. You've been on his show. Do you regret going on that show? And especially in the light of last night's murder of the Israeli embassy staff, is that type of rhetoric responsible in our public discourse?
I think that one of the lessons I learned from the Democratic Party's failures in this previous election is an inability to use every single platform and avenue to communicate with as many people as possible.
Yeah, the framing is also crazy racist, making it seem like I'm responsible for the fucking DC shooting once again. Like, this is double fuck for someone like Zoran, because he's not a white boy either, you know? I mean, they're lying about my takes. That's fine. They always do. What are you going to do? Who cares, right? But this also, like any attack in this vein that is directed in my direction, can absolutely be implemented against Zoran in the exact same way because of our similar backgrounds. That's it. So it's a even more unique position for someone like him because, once again, he's brown, he's Muslim, he's even more visibly Muslim than I am, right? And he's a socialist, And also, he has spent a very long time doing very visible pro-Palestinian advocacy. So any kind of line of attack that bastardizes my assessment, my commentary, my analysis can very easily be directed at him as well. So he's in a really unique position here, in a really unique predicament where saying like, oh, this guy is bad and wrong, they can just as easily turn around and say, okay, well, here's something you've said. Here's a group that you've started, Students for Justice for Palestine and Bowdoin College. Like, and this is the exact line of attack that won't really actually harm his chances, as it didn't in the primary. It's not going to in the general either, unless this is the only thing that he is constantly tasked with responding. Stop giving them ideas. No, I'm not. I'm not giving them ideas. I'm telling them exactly how this works because I saw it happen with Corbyn. Okay? That's it.
Desire to only speak to journalists and podcast hosts with whom you have agreement on every single issue. And I think that much of that conversation pertained to discussions around whether or not people should appear on Joe Rogan. But I think it is part of a broader conversation around politics as a manner of purity, when I think politics should also be an avenue to engage as many people as possible. And so to me, I do not have regrets of speaking to any interviewer, to any journalist, to any podcaster, because ultimately...
Yeah, Corbyn conceded early that there was anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, and it was all that he was asked about for 5 years. He was cooked, which is ironic because the Tories on the other side, for those 5 years, were doing unimaginably anti-Semitic shit, like almost directly aligning with the EDL, like all these other groups. They put a statue of Nancy Astor up to celebrate her. She literally said Hitler was right about the Jews. Like, a person who said that was venerated, was celebrated by the Tory government at the time when everybody was like, Jeremy Corbyn's a real anti-Semite. Like, we've seen this already. We've fucking seen how this works. And like taking on the oppositional framing in this situation and conceding to their framing unironically makes this a larger issue for progressives, for the left, for Democrats as well. This is the same exact technique that right-wing groups apply with regular frequency. They're doing this. This is a right-wing group, it's a Zionist group, and they're doing this as Zoran right here. And he, dances around it and does a decent job. I don't expect him to just be like, Hassan is my favorite content creator. I love him. I am defending him unconditionally. That's not my expectation at all, right? And it's not even about loyalty or anything like that. I don't give a shit. Like I said, put the fucking policy in the bag, okay? Put the policy in the bag, little bro. That's all I care about. You're a politician, okay? You're elected. I want you to be a good mayor. I want you to actually help the people of New York. I want you to help the working class of New York. I want you to make things more affordable. I want you to have a more robust public transit. That's what I care about, okay?
My message is consistent in all of those mediums. And it's a message that I want to have reach as many people as possible while making clear what my values are and my statements are.
Given that comment, do you have a responsibility then when you go on a show like that to say, Hassan, your comments about Hamas, your comments about October 7th are unacceptable. I reject them. And if so, why haven't you said that to his face and on his show?
I think that my words speak for themselves in the context of that, I think about 3.5-hour interview. I made very clear where I stood. And I think this is something that I have sought to embody throughout my career as a consistency. And I think that my actions, my words, even in that interview, spoke for themselves. But it is all.
But this was in the primary. Those questions are fucking ridiculous anyway. If you recall, the Zionist advocacy groups have one speed. They try to do this in France as well to Mélenchon's party. Okay? They try to do this in France and Mélenchon's party, and their response was so clear. It was the best possible response I've ever heard from any politician. Okay? Zoran pivoted here. In France, the dude straight up said, you guys literally say everyone's a fucking anti-Semite if they are anti-genocide. Are you anti-genocide? He redirected it back. He said, there's a genocide going on. Are you anti-genocide? Why do you never ask people if they're anti-genocide or not? You say this to anyone that has ever said anything mean about Israel. Okay? That's the perfect response. You say this to everybody. And the reason why that's a perfect response is because not only is it true, okay? Not only is it true, but also a lot of other people, if you're running in a popularity contest like a fucking election, you want to say shit that's going to come across as popular, okay? And virtually everyone, regardless of their position, unless they're like super duper pro-Israel, and they're never going to fucking vote for Zoran anyway if they are super duper pro-Israel, has felt this. They've seen this. Even if they themselves are not visible public figures, they have seen, they've sensed the attitude coming from mainstream outlets, coming from institutions where it's like, don't say anything about Israel. Don't say it. You see the dead children? Don't say a fucking goddamn thing, or else we'll say you're anti-Semitic. We'll ruin your fucking life. And that has gotten so out of hand that the average person is aware of this attitude. Okay?
Always helpful to hear feedback as to what I have said, how I have engaged, and to always understand what it could look like in the future.
Has what happened.
Anyway. Would you consider being a campaign manager? Someone asked. No, dude. Why the fuck would I do that? I give it out for free, okay? Nothing in my advocacy is paywalled. It's fucking free, okay? That's why the Piker Broadcasting Service is sponsored by you, the viewers, for you, the viewers. There's no ads. And you know, it's free ball. There is no reason for me to, in any way, shape, or form, paywall my takes. Why does your advice not penetrate to people like him and AOC when it comes to this sort of thing? Because the more you are surrounded by people in DC, or the more you're surrounded by establishment Democrats, I feel as though the more you hear from them as opposed to people like myself. Because like Zoran, when he was running, hey, Open Presence, thank you for the 25, get the subs. When Zoran was running, he was surrounded by activists, advocates. His entire team is people who have a similar mindset to someone like myself. But now that he is like more tapped in with the Democratic establishment, because he's like trying to become, I mean, he wants the endorsements from all the Democrats and he wants to win the mayoral race. He has more feedback, less feedback from people like myself and more feedback from people in DC. And their attitude is a lot more careful. Their attitude is a lot more calculated. But the thing is, Zoran Mamdani's earnesty on this issue, on an unimaginably popular issue in the base, is what allowed him to cut away from the rest of the politicians on that crowded field in the primary. But I think that's where this comes from. Mélenchon's answer on the Dig podcast on being smeared as anti-Semitic as a way to delegitimize Muslims and Palestine solidarity. Here's what Mélenchon said. Jean-Luc Mélenchon said, At the same time, all these attacks are an opportunity for mass popular education, provided we never back down. That is to say, once the battle is engaged, we do not give in. We do not back down. We do not apologize. We do not admit any mistakes, and we put up a fight. Those who don't like you won't like you anymore in the end. They may even hate you more, but those who didn't know you will understand that there is a problem. And those who are with you will gain confidence. They will say to themselves, they're not giving up. They're not going to betray me along the way. They're not abandoning their ideas along the way. For us on the left, regaining the trust of the people is the number one test. This is precisely my point. This was unfortunately a major failure for Jeremy Corbyn, who I love deeply. Okay. I think he is a fantastic person, but unfortunately, as a politician, he was too kind. He was too soft. And you can't be. You got to be a fighter. You cannot fold. Okay? That's it. So, never engage on a faulty framework. Even if you concede on a minor point, they'll just pounce on you anyways. Exactly. How many times have we seen this? But now on to some, here, I'll do this last part. A hero 9/11 family on Tuesday slammed Democratic mayoral nominee Zohran Mamdani for associating with vile left-wing influencers. Hassan Piker once said Americans are 9/11. How can you hang around with someone, blah, 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 blah. Mamdani doesn't deserve to be mayor, she said. Her husband, Sal Turtucci, 60, a FDNY emergency medical technician who removed bodies and body parts from ground zero to be sent to the morgue. Now suffer stage 4 neuroendocrine cancer, added, I don't like Mamdani. The couple said they were endorsing Mamdani's rival, ex-governor Andrew Cuomo in the November election, joining him in a press conference 2 days before the 24th anniversary of the terrorist attacks that killed 2,977 people. Piker once controversially said, America deserved 9/11. I'm saying it. We fucking totally brought it on ourselves, dude. Holy shit, we did. We fucking did. He also said it doesn't matter if rapes happened to women during Hamas' October 7th attack on Israel. Wendy Turtucci said Mamdani palling around with Piker's beyond the pale. She also pointed out Mamdani once voiced his love for the 5 leaders of a notorious nonprofit convicted of funneling more than $12 million to the terror group Hamas. You see, it's more. It's not just like his association with Hassan, okay? It's in the same vein of attack. So if you fucking actually turn around and concede on this framework, they're going to pounce on all this other shit too. Do you see what I mean? You should not be fearful of this. You shouldn't. It's ridiculous. Do you see what I mean? Do you get it? Because the starting point here, the starting point for this cynical line of attack is not out of like some sincere belief, unless you legitimately think that like myself or Zohran had anything to do with fucking 9/11, and you are actively misunderstanding what I'm saying there. Okay? I get it. I do think it's kind of weird that they love clip farming you. I mean, it's fine. It happens. It happens when you are a public figure. It is what it is. It's the name of the game here. Okay. It's a shitty situation, but you know, we're adults. Sal Turtucci and Cuomo also rode motorcycles together to honor 9/11 first responders. I know what firsthand Andrew Cuomo is. Like, this is just a way to try and fucking make Andrew Cuomo look good. Okay? So, I don't think it's going to work. I mean, this is incredibly stupid. once again, the silver lining here is that they are desperate. And the reason why they're desperate is because of this. Mamdani holds huge lead in mayor's race, Times Siena poll finds. Okay? Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic nominee in the New York City mayoral race, is way ahead of his three rivals, but his lead would diminish considerably if the field shrank to a two-man race. He's at 46%. If the 2025 New York City mayoral election were held today, who would you vote for? And as far as I understand, it's over anyway. The ballots are already being printed. So these guys are going to be on the ballots regardless. Okay? None of them dropped out. None of them dropped out. Which means that there is no way to ensure that every single person and every single vote is behind one of these guys. Okay? There is no way that they can actually, now that the ballots have been printed, even if there were endorsements that came, like even if Eric Adams dropped out and then endorsed Andrew Cuomo, which is not going to happen, right? Even if Eric Adams dropped out and endorsed Andrew Cuomo, which is not likely to happen, he's called Andrew Cuomo a snake and a liar. Even if Curtis Sliwa dropped out, which I think is the less likely option out of all of this, and endorsed Andrew Cuomo, their names are still on the ballot. And therefore, there are going to be a lot of people who vote for them regardless. You understand? There's going to be a lot of people who just simply go, yeah, I didn't hear it. I still voted for my guy. Now, ultimately, this is the reason why I think these guys are incredibly desperate, and they'll get even more racist as the election nears. I suspect that they'll do a big push around 9/11 as well to try to associate Zohran Mamdani with 9/11 because they're just leaning on Islamophobia. That's it. Zohran is Muslim. They're trying to fucking be like, they're trying to be like, yeah, Muslim guy kind of did 9/11. His people did 9/11. Remember 9/11? His people did it. Do you want an insider to do 9/11 again? Like that type of shit. That's basically what they're doing. They're just hitting the racism line. New York about to be Mumbai 2.0. It isn't a phobia if it's rational. You think, first of all, you're in the chat of a Muslim dude. That's number one. But number two, you think Zohran Mamdani is going to do 9/11. You think that's a rational phobia. No, but Islam is responsible for many extremists. Brother, this is the worst time to say that. Okay? First of all, that's just transparent racism. But it is pretty funny to say that at a time of unprecedented Christian nationalism growing in this country. Okay? Fascist Christian nationalism growing in this country. And also, Israel falsely is conflating every single action that they're doing at the behest of this Zionist project, which is a Jewish supremacist ideology that is exterminationist in principle. They're saying that they're doing this for Judaism. So right now, in terms of the Abrahamic religions, the only reason why you feel like the Muslims and Islam is responsible for many extremists is because this is the worst possible time. If you were saying this in 2001, it would still be ridiculous, but at least you could have a little bit of broad appeal for this kind of sentiment. 2025, 20 plus years after the failure of War on Terror, not a good time to just deliver this racist sentiment, because it's one of those things that just slams you directly in the fucking face, that is just not real at all. Not that it changes the dynamic for you in any way, because you are not operating off of any sort of rational fear, even though you think you are rationalizing this fear, but it's incredibly stupid. Incredibly stupid to say right now, as opposed to any other time. The poll found that 46% of likely voters currently plan to choose Mr. Mamdani, the Democratic nominee, in a four-way race. as I was saying. Hold on. By comparison, 24% of likely voters in New York City said they would support former Governor Andrew M. Cuomo, who is running as an independent after losing June's Democratic primary. 15% were backed the Republican candidate, Curtis Sliwa, and 9% favored Mayor Eric Adams, the scandal-scarred incumbent who is running on an independent line. The survey captured the state of the race in early September at a moment of unusual flux. The day after polling began, the New York Times reported that President Trump and powerful figures in New York City were endeavoring to create a one-on-one contest between Mr. Cuomo, 67, and Mr. Mamdani, a 33-year-old state assemblyman and Democratic socialist. The extraordinary effort has included negotiations about Mr. Adams potentially suspending his campaign and accepting a nomination, this part is really funny, to be ambassador to Saudi Arabia. Presidential advisors have also discussed strategies to try to push Mr. Sliwa out of the race. The Times Siena poll underscored the potential impact of shrinking the field. Doing so, it suggested could meaningfully erode Mr. Mamdani's lead, but only if Mr. Adams and Mr. Sliwa, who have vowed to keep running, suspended their campaigns. Yeah. You miscalculated. I hate Cuomo more than I love corruption. Yeah, that is funny. That is literally what happened. They just thought that they could squeeze him out by giving him like a sweet deal because they're like, you love deals. You love doing corruption. Here, we'll let you do some corruption. That's your favorite, no? Come on. Come on, let's get you out of there. Nope. They should have suggested making him the ambassador to Turkey, and maybe then he would have been down, I think. You know? They fucked up. Anyway, in a hypothetical head-to-head matchup, voters who initially supported Mr. Adams and Mr. Sliwa broke heavily towards Mr. Cuomo, a moderate Democrat. The survey suggested that would lead to an extremely tight race, with 48% supporting Mr. Mamdani and 44% supporting Mr. Cuomo. But if Mr. Adams dropped out and Mr. Sliwa stayed in the race, Mr. Mamdani would likely still hold a comfortable lead, given Mr. Adams' relatively low level of support. With just under 2 months to go until Election Day, the race has already been one of the most tumultuous New York City has seen in decades. It has included short-lived corruption charges against Mr. Adams, a comeback attempt by Mr. Cuomo 4 years after he resigned as governor in scandal, and the unexpected rise of Mr. Mamdani. The Times Siena survey is among a handful of independent polls in the race in recent weeks and showed a somewhat larger lead for Mr. Mamdani than others tracked by the Times. The new poll suggests that Mr. Mamdani's success so far is rooted in 2 factors. This is huge. Voters' personal regard for him and their sense that he is best positioned to address the 2 top electoral issues, affordability and housing costs. Oh my God, this is so shocking. Who could have thought that if you just listen to the people's demands, the people's wishes, the people's points of pain, and chose to address them, that they would respond positively to your candidacy? Who could have foreseen this? Oh my God. So shocking. No, it's the voting base that is out of touch. Exactly. They simply don't understand the dangers that Mamdani presents. If only we could do a couple more attack ads on him, then they would know. Okay? Then they would know how dangerous it is. Around 60% of likely voters said Mr. Mamdani was inspirational, had good character, and cared about people like them. He's the only candidate viewed positively by a majority of voters, despite months of attacks against him, because those attacks are failing, because those attacks are fucking stupid. Those attacks against Zohran Mamdani revolve around shit that people actually want. They say his campaign promises are impossible. They will ruin the economy. People go, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? The economy for me, personally, is already ruined. It's tattered. I can't afford shit. They say Zohran Mamdani hates Israel. He hates Israel. He hates Israel. People go, what the fuck? I hate Israel. What do you mean? And even attacks that even attacks that comprise they say he's hates Jews, right? The Zohar Mamdani hates Jews. Like, people understand that the reason why they're saying that about Zohar Mamdani is not because he actually hates Jews and is anti-Semitic. People understand it's because he's anti-Israel, and everyone else is anti-Israel as well, seemingly. So of course, most people have at least encountered. Most people have, at the very least, encountered online or on TV the exact same thing that I'm talking about. Someone who comes out and says, yeah, fuck Israel. What they're doing is terrible. It must be, we must stop it. We must put an end to this violence. And immediately they get pounced on and everybody goes, oh, you must hate Jews. You must hate Jews. You want to kill all Jews. And people go, no, I don't want that. What the fuck are you talking about? So they've already experienced this. Even if they themselves have not actually been public about their own personal positions, they already have felt the environment of insecurity due to the endless sea of counter narratives and attacks in this cynical direction. So when they try to fucking hit him on that stuff, when they try to hit him on this shit, people understand exactly where this is coming from. And Mr. Ramdani has an edge on all racial groups, leading Mr. Cuomo narrowly among black voters. Mr. Adams, the city's second black mayor, trails in third, and by a larger margin among Hispanic voters. Overall, voters said they trusted Mr. Ramdani over Mr. Cuomo 49% to 23% when it comes to handling the city's daunting affordability challenge, with the other candidates lagging behind. Mr. Ramdani's proposal to freeze rent increases on rent-stabilized units wins particularly strong public support. Nearly 70% of voters, including majorities of Cuomo and Adams supporters, favor the policy. How'd that happen? How the fuck that happened? They've been attacking him on that line as well. They keep saying, "Oh, this is silly. This is ridiculous. Good things are not possible. Vote for me instead of Mamdani." Good things are not possible. He's a monster. He wants you to pay less for your rent. Think about the poor landlords. He's just got slick slogans. And it's like people go, no, man, I don't want you to tell me that it's impossible for my rent to be cheaper. What the fuck is wrong with you? That is usually the response from people who go, no, I heard him say he wants to fucking freeze the rents, and I love that. Increasing taxes on the wealthiest New Yorkers, as Mr. Ramdani has proposed, is also widely popular, the poll found. Wow. Faith Dulaurier, 24, teacher from Flushing, Queens, said Mr. Ramdani's focus on affordability and his frequent appearances around the city had won her over, even though she's not registered with the party. I want to see something new, different, actually active change, she said. By a large margin, likely voters also said Mr. Ramdani was a candidate who had best addressed the conflict between Israelis and Palestinians. 43% favored his position compared to 16% for Mr. Cuomo. Only 16% support for Andrew Cuomo's I'm going to take some time out to be Benjamin Netanyahu's personal lawyer for the International Criminal Court case. Wow. Mr. Mamdani has been among the most outspoken proponents of Palestinian rights and a longtime critic of Israel, describing its war efforts in Gaza as genocide. Mr. Cuomo is a staunch ally of Israel and has volunteered to defend its leader, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, from war crime accusations. Still, the poll registered potential vulnerabilities for the frontrunner, too. Voters have doubts about whether Mr. Mamdani, a three-term state lawmaker with a sparse resume, can deliver on his ambitious campaign plans. Roughly two-thirds of likely voters, including more than half of Mamdani's own supporters, said they do not expect him to achieve everything he has promised. Some 57% of likely voters have also said New York City should not follow through on Mr. Mamdani's plan to make buses free for everyone, even as a majority of New Yorkers support the proposal in theory. And they were divided over his affiliation with the Democratic Socialists of America. Leftist group, about 37% of likely voters said that having a Democratic Socialist mayor would be a good thing for the city, compared to the 32% who said it would be a bad thing, and 26% who called it neither good nor bad. Wow. So even his association with the DSA is either irrelevant or positive. A larger number thinks it's a positive association. Who could have fucking seen that? Despite Mr. Cuomo's primary loss, the survey suggested that he had more room to increase his support before Election Day than Mr. Adams or Mr. Sliwa. Now, let me tell you something. And this part is also important. I'm willing to bet that right now in New York and in many other places around the country, an association with establishment Democrats looks worse than an association with the Democratic Socialists of America. The DSA has a higher approval rating in New York and perhaps even many other parts of the country if they were to be able to operate with the same level of intensity as they do in New York City. They would be infinitely more popular than the Democratic Party, which is, of course, not that significant overall. It's like saying, yeah, people prefer a ham sandwich over shit from a butt, okay? Because the Democrats, broadly, on the national scale, are seen as shit from a butt, okay? A shit sandwich. That's it. That's what the fuck people think of the Democrats. We know that already. Excuse you? No, I will not excuse myself. The Democrats look like shit. They smell like shit. Nobody wants to be fucking associated with them. So the likes of Zohran Mamdani and many other seemingly radical candidates that are actually trying to implement modest social democratic reforms are unironically trying to save this fucking country. This is something that I keep repeating over and over again, and people get so goddamn mad, so much in their fucking fifis. Democrats are unpopular. The Republicans are unpopular too, but Democrats are also devastatingly unpopular. These guys, people like Zohran Mamdani, are exactly the type of people that they should be like grabbing onto and then trying to implement their fucking policies, try to identify why they're popular, and then repackage their dumbass campaigns in a similar vein to say like, oh yeah, we're radical too, we're socialist too, please. It's a different kind of Democrat. We're a different kind of Democrat. You know, one that is a real fighter. That's what they should be doing. The former governor has taken a far more aggressive approach in recent weeks to try to convince voters that Mr. Mamdani is too inexperienced and too ideologically left-leaning to lead a global financial capital. Mr. Cuomo, who spends a decade leading the state, receives high marks on his ability to govern. Roughly 57% of likely voters said the phrase would be an effective mayor described him well. Rodrigo Tobar, 64 of Queens, said he planned to support Mr. Sliwa, but was open to voting for Mr. Cuomo because of his experience. I like Sliwa because he's on the side of Trump, and I like anyone on the side of Trump, said Mr. Tobar, who works at Elmhurst Hospital. But Cuomo did a great job as governor. I think he'd be a good mayor. Roughly 2/3 of voters support a proposal by Mr. Cuomo to limit who can lease the city's nearly 1 million rent-stabilized apartments to those who would be spending at least 30% of their income on rent. Mr. Cuomo named the plan after Mr. Mamdani drew attention to his rivals living in a rent-stabilized unit despite his six-figure state salary. Mr. Cuomo's plan to hire 5,000 more police officers is also popular and has support from many of Mr. Mamdani's backers. But there are signs that the key lines of attack by Mr. Cuomo are not working. He has spent months criticizing Mr. Mamdani for his past support for defunding the police department, a position the assemblyman has since reversed, and has argued that his rival would be ill-equipped to go toe-to-toe with Mr. Trump. Yeah, except this this line of attack is, of course, the funniest one to direct at Zohran Mamdani, because Donald Trump is clearly antagonistic to Zohran Mamdani, and Donald Trump is clearly interested in making Andrew Cuomo the mayor of New York. Christian extremists never flew planes in the buildings. Don't ever compare them to Islam. I hate Christians, by the way. Wait, what? Yes, Christian extremists never flew planes into buildings. Instead, they just leveled entire countries. What the fuck are you talking about, you dumb piece of shit? What are you talking about? George W. Bush said God told him to invade Afghanistan and Iraq. Okay? There were generals in George W. Bush's military at the time that were like saying we're going to dip our bullets in pig's blood to kill all the Muslims. But of course, no one understands that as a Christian crusade, because it's not. Christianity is just an association that you slap on to any sort of fucking movement so you can galvanize the public in that direction. God damn it. Why do so many fucking r/atheist dipshits turn into just like major Islamophobes? It's like, I hate Christianity too, but Christian extremists never flew planes in the buildings. Dude, you have the white like understanding of Sharia in the most like Al-Qaeda version of it here in the United States of America right now, and you still think it's the Muslims that are fucking responsible for extremism in this country. You're a fucking delusional moron. Okay? They say that, you clown. They don't believe Lamau. The guys in the planes actually believed. If you think fundamentalist Islam is an ever-present danger to your existence in the United States of America in 2025, you can be convinced of anything, okay? You can literally be convinced of anything, especially in this conversation, when we're having a conversation about myself and my associations with Zoran Mamdani. Do you think me or Zoran are in any way, shape, or form fundamentalist Muslims? Are you fucking stupid? Do you think that we're Salafists? I don't think that. Just don't compare them. It's embarrassing. No, what's embarrassing is your argument in 2025 that holds no fucking water. 90% of all instances of domestic terror since 9/11 have always been conducted by far-right anti-government extremists, many of which actually present themselves as Christian nationalists, as a matter of fact, or neo-Nazis. So the idea that this is actually a real significant threat to American existence shows that you don't actually have any aptitude in statistical analysis and are simply operating off of your fucking feelings. That's it. That's literally it. And it's something that was so stupid even after 2001. Present themselves, yes, they don't believe in shit though, not as dangerous. Brother, I am talking about the most dangerous ideology from your perspective, okay, from your existence. It is neo-Nazis. It is white nationalists. It's white supremacists. Whether they are real believers of Christianity or not, are you going to let the reactionary group, the reactionary entity in this race, Andrew Cuomo, backed by Donald Trump, lead the conversation? Okay, disavow this person, condemn that person. If you get into this game, okay, if you get into this game, it's not going to be good for you because you're constantly going to have another person that comes after you. That's why I have said before, the whole like sister soldier shit or the Reverend Right shit, like that stuff in the past didn't work either, but Democrats love doing that shit. This is a new meta. This is a new dawn. It is a new day. Okay? Also, I like the implication that I did 9/11. Like these people make it seem as though I was I was familiar with the matters, and like the subtle implication is like I participated in 9/11, like I did it. Okay? Yeah. So in 2017, Cuomo stood side by side with Sal to sign legislation granting unlimited sick leave to responders battling illnesses from the service. That day, they rode motorcycles together to honor 9/11 first responders to symbolize resilience, solidarity, and progress. I know firsthand what kind of leader Andrew Cuomo is. Wendy Turturici said, as governor, he fought to secure benefits to 9/11 families. He treated our community with the respect and dignity we deserve. That's the kind of leadership New York City needs again. She added his opponents, Zoran Mamdani, proudly associated with Hassan Piker, a man who said America deserved 9/11. To families like mine, that's not politics, that's life and death. It's like, it's crazy to just be like, yeah, dude, you love 9/11. You might have done 9/11, and it's really fucked up that Zoran is associating with this guy who like is responsible for 9/11. It's also pure racism, through and through. But it's an act of desperation overall, and once again, in this act of desperation, it only has as much motion as the popular candidate in the field, Zoran Mamdani, gives it. It only has as much motion as Zoran Mamdani breathes life into it. Okay? Cuomo keeps his remarks to benefits for 9/11 victims Zoran. Like, it comes down to this, and I mean this. I'm not like